Hello and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keith.
And good morning, I'm Dave Scott. Good to have you with us all across Oakland County on great radio stations like 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 The Biff in Bloomfield Hills, and 89.5 Avondale Community Radio in Auburn Hills. We are also on Civic Center TV. We are on Birmingham Area Municipal Television. And we also want to thank the West Bloomfield School District for broadcasting today's show live on Facebook. Got it, Tyler. Got to make sure it look good. And then also civiccentertv.com. So not easy for an old school radio guy, Tyler, like me, to pull it all together here. And I didn't get the haircut yesterday. Did you get the haircut?
I did not. No, I didn't get a chance yesterday either. It's packed out there, Dave, and we're all very busy here at our operation, too.
Well, we're busy here at our operation producing this show and doing the other things we're working on. Keeps us a little busy. So, but yeah, I'm sure it was hard to get a spot in line. And yesterday I went to the salon where I get my hair cut. And 2 or 3 of the people that worked there were not on the reservation list anymore. So, some staff changes have happened. And as I listened to reports from around the state of Michigan today, that's an issue. As businesses are opening up, they have a handful of problems getting all their employees back who may have engaged in other activities or are comfortable with their unemployment and maybe have other obligations or maybe for health reasons don't really want to jump right back in the workforce.
It's something that's going to be a struggle for a lot of these businesses initially, especially as people work through their apprehension to return to work under the circumstances. COVID-19 is still very much a problem. People are emerging in bunches back into the community and back into workplaces. And for some people, that's a big concern. And that also creates another concern for these returning businesses as they try to staff around these particular issues.
So we're going to continue our focus today on some of the educational challenges that our school districts are facing during this COVID-19 crisis. Joining us on the show today, though, is Captain Dan Edwards of the Bloomfield Township Police Department. We'll get to him in just a couple of minutes. Dr. Cynthia Carver, Associate Professor at the Oakland University School of Education and Human Services. So we'll talk education with her. Chris Wigent joins us. He is the Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators. And so he's right on the front line, Tyler. He and his members, superintendents around the state of Michigan, trying to figure out how they are going to make it all work from a funding standpoint, from a logistics standpoint. We talked about it a bit yesterday. And then later on today, we're going to get right into the bottom line of all this as we talk to one of our regular guests, Dr. Jerry Hill, the superintendent of the West Bloomfield schools, and see how plans are developing. Tyler, it was West Bloomfield that came out with a plan before anybody, and they set a foundation for other districts around the state and around our region for a procedure, a plan, an implementation schedule to be able to get kids back in class in the fall.
And not only that, but considerations for what goes into those plans. Not only just how we're going to educate kids and keep these kids safe in our schools, but what does that look like? How do we incorporate hybrid learning? What do we do in the situation where we have a second wave and we can't be in the school and we have to prepare an entire year's curriculum or at least an entire semester's curriculum all virtual once again? And they set the tone for that, and I think a lot of school districts have taken inspiration from that as well.
All right, Tyler, let's get right to our first guest. Today it is Captain Dan Edwards of the Bloomfield Township Police Department, and I believe he is with us. Captain Edwards, good morning and welcome to the Megacast.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on today.
Well, good to have you with us. And Larry, if you can unfreeze my image so I can see Captain Edwards, I would really appreciate it. Tyler, we're the only show that I've ever heard of that actually has a Zoom producer. How cool is that?
It is really cool. It's unique. It's different.
The amazing Larry Nyland making all the visuals happen as we do radio on television. Captain Edwards, thank you very much for joining us on the show today. And let's start with how things are going in Bloomfield Township as businesses are beginning to open up.
Well, we haven't had many health and safety violation complaints. In the beginning, we were having several of them every day. It took up a big percentage of our job. Now, though, it's been 3 or 4 days since we've had any complaints at all. We've had a couple businesses that are opening up that we've gotten some complaints from the either employees in the business or customers that they're not opening up quite properly. So we've went in and talked to them about what the law is. Again, we're still telling our officers to approach it from a education standpoint and a voluntary compliance.
So you've got people coming in that are saying somebody didn't have a mask on, or somebody wasn't wearing gloves, or they went into an establishment and there wasn't social distancing and they dialed 911?
We did receive a lot of those complaints initially. Now it's more that this business shouldn't be open and they're open now, or they're opening improperly. You know, they have to monitor the 50% capacity rules. But we haven't been having a lot of complaints of masks issues that we've had to deal with.
You sometimes wonder, and I don't want to characterize the people that are making those phone calls, because we encourage citizens to let people know, let our law enforcement officials know when they see something. If anything, we need more eyes and ears around our community. But are some of these complaints maybe another business that didn't get to open, seeing someone do something down the street and then they're starting to complain?
Yes, I think that has a lot to do with it. Either employees that are nervous about going back to work, or other businesses that want to make sure that they're being treated fairly or following the same rules. And so it's our job to keep the peace in the community.
Well, you got to be happy today you're not the chief of the Royal Oak Police Department, because do you know the chief over? You guys all know each other. You probably know the chief over there. Your friend is going to have his hands full, because the Imagine Theater has decided on Friday. I don't know if you saw the story, but they've decided on Friday they're going to open up and they're going to do an event. It's a worthy event, but regardless of how worthy the event is, they are going to open up. They're going all Owasso barbershop on us, and they're going to open up on Friday. And the governor's office was quoted that the provisions for opening up indoor movie theaters are not in place yet, and they're going to open up. And I assume you haven't had to deal with anything like that in your community.
Well, nothing that's made the news media yet.
So you have. So we just say, you're always great to have on. Hey, share whatever you want to share with us, or whatever anecdotes you want to share with us.
Oh, just that there is businesses that are opening up that are kind of pushing the rules, and we have to talk to them and try to get everybody on the same page. And the governor puts out a lot of new rules, and our officers have a hard time keeping up with them, because they're kind of every day there's a new rule coming out. But I mean, that's our job, is to have the internet on our phone and pull it up, and so we'll go to the businesses and talk to them about what the rules are, and look up the rules with them and try to make sure, like I said, getting voluntary compliance, education.
Well, and I assume once you get out and you start communicating with businesses, everyone says, okay, well, thanks for the visit. We're going to follow the rules. I can tell you there are a lot of them. Tyler and I, what was it, Thursday last week, Tyler? We read all the executive orders that are still in place. And it gets complicated. And by the way, These are on the web. If you go to civiccentertv.com, I think we have a link in there in the state of Michigan to the current rules that are in place. But there's still a lot of them, and a lot of them are very complicated as to whether this was canceled or that was canceled, and there's a lot of nuance in there. So again, it took us, I think, a half an hour to read all of them on the show.
Yeah, yep, we're doing the same thing, and we got to keep up with them and make sure all the businesses are on the same page. And it's starting to shift the responsibility from law enforcement to the health and safety department.
So it's starting to feel more like normal when I'm driving around. I couldn't pull out of my driveway this morning, which is the way it should be, because where I live, I have a lot of traffic on the main highway. And it seems to me that we're getting back to our normal traffic flows. Within your jurisdiction is Telegraph, one of the busiest roads in Metro Detroit. Are you seeing the same thing, sir?
Yeah, definitely an increase in traffic and an increase in commerce, which is a good thing for our economy. Everybody's got to get back to life as best they can and get the system going again. We're definitely seeing a lot more people out and about and doing stuff. And our graphs for the state are very impressive. You know, our new cases every day are way lower than a lot of other states, and so we've been doing a good job at the social distancing and wearing our masks and washing our hands and all that stuff.
So we have had a funeral for George Floyd. Everyone has seen the video. I watched it again on television last night. Still continues to be very, very troubling to anyone who watches it. And they continue to release a little bit more video. And the video we saw yesterday on television, it may have been out there for a while, but I hadn't seen it, involved a number of citizens in very close proximity to the officers, pleading with them to take some action to release Mr. Floyd from the ground. And it just, they didn't respond at all. So we see that video. And then last night we had detailed, virtually frame by frame video of the incident in Atlanta. And we're able to visualize exactly what happened from second to second. Have you seen both of those videos? Do you have any thoughts about those two events and either similarities or differences in those?
Well, the George Floyd event is certainly disturbing for anybody who saw it, and it certainly sent waves through our country, and it certainly is going to change things in law enforcement, and we've felt changes already. And I know there's a bill in Lansing right now with the Senate that's looking at making some reforms, setting some minimum standards for law enforcement, focusing on de-escalation, implicit bias, procedural justice, and mental health reforms, which are the big things in the bill. And all of those things are important conversations that law enforcement agencies need to look at within themselves. And which I would like to have an opportunity to talk about us for a second here. We recently went through an accreditation process, which the Michigan Association of Chiefs of Police started a couple of years back. And it's a voluntary thing that agencies can get accredited. And part of the accreditation process is that you have to have de-escalation training as part of your yearly annual training, and also implicit bias. And so we've been doing that since we've been accredited last year. And I think that's a good safety or a check on a law enforcement agency to make sure that they're doing the right thing. And I'm proud to say that, you know, we recently got accredited, and we've had those procedures implemented in our department. And so I think this law that sets minimum standards for agencies is a good step in the right direction.
You know, I think we now have a better understanding because those two events are very different. At least I have a better understanding of the challenges that law enforcement has. We certainly know that when you're out on the streets enforcing the law, the police officers are targets. They have to be careful because they are on the front line. And they are going to have to respond to critical situations, put themselves in the line of fire, and just deal with escalating complicated situations. And we certainly saw that in the Atlanta case, because that thing, I mean, that started out very calm, and the police were calm, and the gentleman that was killed were very calm as well. And then the thing escalated when he attempted to break free and didn't want to be cuffed and grab the taser. We've all seen the video, and then we see him being shot after he shoots his taser back at police. But you just think of the adrenaline. I know when I do the radio show, I drink some coffee, I have an adrenaline buzz. You are at your highest level of alertness, if you will, when you're doing a radio program. I can't imagine what it's like in a situation where you are arresting somebody, knowing the history of other events that have happened during your police career, and then things start to get complicated. How do you train to that specifically? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. The Supreme Court made a decision on Graham versus Connor several years back and spoke exactly to that. And they said that to judge a use of force incident, you have to consider the rapidly evolving nature of an incident and the severity of, it can be a life and death incident. So the severity of the incident. And you can't judge the incident with the hindsight of 2020. You have to consider it from the officer's perspective, and you have to consider the totality of the circumstances, everything that the officer can see what's going on. And because police officers are thrown in dangerous situations that can explode quickly, and they have to make a split-second decision, and to judge it with the hindsight of 2020, well, if they could have done something different, then it would have had a different outcome, would be a tough standard to put on an officer. So the Supreme Court ruling is how we train. But we have to train for rapidly evolving situations and to prepare to try put as much effort as we can to de-escalate the situation from the beginning and take that.
So how did you see that one? I mean, Mr. Brooks shot back with a taser, but at that time he had shot his taser, and then it looks like there's like a quarter of a second. It looks at that point like the police officer then draws his weapon and shoots, which it doesn't look good. How did you see that video, and what's your analysis of what happened?
I don't know the whole story, and so I'm not in a position to give my opinion on it. There's a lot of things that come to mind that are questions, exactly what the officer knew. I mean, did he know that it was the taser that he was using? And there's a perception and reaction time in law enforcement or in any situation. If somebody throws a ball to you, you automatically put your hands up, and if the ball's on the string,
right,
the ball bounces back. The other guy his hands are coming up. So it takes your brain just a second to react to a situation. And that perception and reaction time can be a factor in a situation like this where it's rapidly evolving.
Well, Captain Dan Edwards, I understand that. Captain Edwards of the Bloomfield Township Police Department. Let's talk about cameras, because we had a lot of different views of that incident. Where is your department with cameras right now? Where do you have cameras, if you do? And can you give us any idea what it's like across the other departments in our region?
I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the things. We just had our meeting with the chief of police this morning, Phil Langmeyer, and he brought up body-worn cameras. And we do not have them at our department right now. And the reason that we don't is throughout the state, several years back when they first started to become popular, a lot of agencies were very concerned with the freedom of information, which FOIA, or Freedom of Information, says that a law enforcement agency has to share information with the public. So if anybody wants to come in and get a copy of our camera footage, they can. The concern for law enforcement at the time was that there was no restrictions put on that. So if you see the neighbor or you see the police over at your neighbor's house and you want to see what happened, you can come into the police department and get a copy of a FOIA request for the footage, and you can see the nuances of the conversation about your neighbor's marriage and the fight that they just had. And we don't think that's fair to the public to have to release that information so that your nosy neighbor can see everything that's going on with you. So we asked Lansing to put some restrictions on the information that we could give out and not allow us to just give it out to somebody who's being nosy and just looking for dirt on somebody. And there should be a reason that somebody wants that information or for a purpose, but just to be nosy. And I know Lansing has made some changes with that, and so we're going to relook at that again because we want to get body-worn cameras. We've had cameras, to answer your question more directly, we have had cameras in our police cars for as long as I've been a cop. And they've been very beneficial to us because it shows exactly what's going on. And our officers do the right thing 99.99% of the time. And it's good to have those cameras that show that. And it's helped us out on citizens' complaints so many times. We can show the perspective of the camera to people. And so we want to take it to the next level and have the body-worn cameras. We have been concerned about those.
No, and I understand the concerns that anybody can FOIA content, but I hope you work through it, and we'll keep in touch with you and the other departments. Seems to me, based on the news of the past couple of weeks, that we're going to be seeing a lot more police officers wearing body cameras, and somehow we got to be able to protect the privacy of others. But it seems to me that we're going in that direction.
Exactly what my chief just said this morning.
Okay. All right. Very good. Captain Dan Edwards, Bloomfield Township Police Department. Anything else you have for us today you want to share with people?
Well, our conversation, our chief's meeting was also about our animal welfare department. We had to close that down because of some budget restraints, and we've done some moving of funds around and doing more with less and contracting with other agencies. And it looks like we're going to be able to open our animal welfare department back up here at the start of next month.
All right. Well, that's good news. That's good news. And, we just want to keep reminding everybody, I'm sure you do as well, that as businesses open up, that it's the basics, it's the fundamentals right now that we need to, stay on top of. Obviously, always abiding by the law, but just, washing your hands and wearing the mask and doing those things that we all need to do to keep us healthy.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
All right. Captain Edwards, thank you very much. Good to be with you again.
Thank you, Dave.
He is Captain Dan Edwards of the Bloomfield Township Police Department. Tyler, everyone's going to, if the police all start wearing cameras, which we can expect, I wonder if people are going to start wearing their own little personal cameras pretty soon in there. You get, the old, pen in your pocket. Maybe you got a little camera that you carry around with yourself just to record everything that's going on in your life. It sounds crazy. And I know we have our phones, which are our own little personal recorders, but, I could see it going that way.
I don't entirely agree with that. I think that, like you said, we have our phones, and I think that the people are using their phones in situations where they need a part of their life to be recorded because something's going on that either isn't right or that they may think they need to deliberate on later on, and that's what they use their phone for. I don't see civilians like you and I walking around with body cameras anytime soon like a police officer, where you have to be held to a certain standard, a higher standard than a regular civilian like you and I, and that's the purpose of the body cameras.
I guess so. But you never know.
Right.
Well, one thing is certain, that the folks at the Imagine Theater in Royal Oak, they're going to have their hands full. Tyler, they've decided to open up on Friday night. We'll review that story a little later on in the show, but they are definitely ahead of the governor's executive orders.
They very much are, and we got ourselves, like you said earlier on in the show, we got ourselves an Owasso Barber situation right here in Oakland County. The theater's opening up. Maybe it's going to be a one-day thing, and that's what it seems like from what I read in the article, but maybe it's not going to be that sort of a situation. It's developing. We'll see where it goes.
All right, just reading from the Detroit Free Press today, Imagine Royal Oak plans to reopen Friday for a Juneteenth themed film festival, even though Michigan theaters haven't been given the okay for such a move. The announcement was made Monday afternoon by Imagine Entertainment, the multiplex chain which has 10 theaters in Michigan, Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin. And really, off the story here for a minute, Paul Glantz, who owns the theater, is a pretty influential, powerful Detroiter. This is a guy who's very visible and very out there, Tyler. And, he's not, no disrespect to the barber in Owasso, but this is a guy who a lot of powerful people know. It's going to be interesting to see. You understand where I'm going?
I understand where you're going. Yeah, it's tough to really check someone with that kind of sway and power if they're doing something like this for one day necessarily, or just in general. I see what you're saying.
The governor's department and the governor's office, Tiffany Brown from the governor's office said via email to the Free Press as of Monday, indoor movie theaters are still closed under an executive order temporarily prohibiting large assemblies and events, especially indoors. Outdoor theaters are allowed, but indoor theaters not so much yet. So we'll see. Good news is that a lot of other businesses have opened over the last couple of days. That seems like it's going really well, but theaters not. And Glantz said this is born out of a desire and behalf that the time is right to help our African-American brothers and sisters. And that's what this film festival is all about. But it seems, Tyler, like the safest step a movie theater can take to open up in the under the guise, if you will, of a very good, well-respected public service event, and see if you can get it open for one day and see if that'll move the needle a little bit.
I think it's a good way to show exactly what can happen in theaters regarding safety precautions, and social distancing measures. And if all goes well on that day, maybe that sets a benchmark and it gets the theaters open a little bit earlier than was previously expected. And if that's the case, then for Imagine Theaters specifically in this case, it's a win-win situation.
Have you heard of Juneteenth before? To me, it's
Yes.
a new. Okay, all right.
Well,
So you're much more socially aware. For those that are not, Juneteenth occurs June 19th, and it commemorates the end of slavery in the United States and has been celebrated annually since 1865, when the Union soldiers told enslaved men and women in Galveston, Texas, that they were free. And in the wake of the settling and subsequent rescheduling of a campaign rally for President Trump on June 19th, Oklahoma, Juneteenth has been much in the news because of that Trump rally, and then, of course, all the other news of the day. So we will see. We'll keep an eye on it and see what happens. I don't think it's going to be too much longer if things continue to move the way they are before she can get the movie theaters open, at least in some way.
I would agree. I think that we're still very close. That we're very close right now to Phase 5, just based on the timeline that we had for Phase 4, which we're currently in right now, in relation to when Phase 4 was initiated in regions 6 and 8 up north. It was a couple weeks after that, with the numbers going down, that we saw our region open up into Phase 4, and then shortly after that, with some elements of Phase 5, like those personal services that we covered opening up yesterday. I think we're in the same sort of timeline, I would imagine, with Phase 5 operations, which include movie theaters, I would believe, and that we're really close to getting to that point.
All right, Tyler Keefe, Dave Scott of the Megacast. As you know, if you've tuned in every day, we've been doing our very best to keep an eye on the education front during these troubling times, and have been right there every day reporting the latest developments as it impacts your kids and other people going to school. That continues in just a moment. We'll be joined by Dr. Cynthia Carver, Associate Professor, Oakland University School of Education and Human Services, and she will weigh in on where we are with education and the return to school in the fall. The Megacast continues in just a couple of moments on 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 The Biff, and 89.5 Avondale Community Radio, Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Television, and today we are on the Facebook page of the Bloomfield Township, the West Bloomfield School District, and we will be right back.
Coronavirus has put us to the test. Now it's time to put it to the test. We've greatly expanded testing in Michigan, so people who think they may have COVID-19 with symptoms like fever, cough, and shortness of breath can get tested. And those without symptoms who work in public can now get tested, as they could carry the virus. Start by calling your healthcare provider or contacting a testing site near you. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Technology like smartphones are wonderful devices to reduce social isolation in older adults. You can call grandchildren, phone friends, participate in fitness classes, and play games. But you need to stay mindful of scams. Scams related to the COVID-19 virus are rising. These include attempts to obtain personal information from seniors, including pitching unreliable products, advice, tests, and cures. You need to stay vigilant and be cautious. If you feel that you have been taken advantage of, it's okay for you to reach out to somebody you know and seek out advice, or even contact your medical provider. Thank you.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart. Keep wearing a mask in public. And if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
The Oakland County Megacast returns. I'm Tyler Keefe.
And I'm Dave Scott. Tyler in our West Bloomfield studios. I'm in our Troy offices. And you are wherever you are today. Maybe listening on the radio on 89.3 Lakes FM in West Bloomfield and surrounding communities. Maybe tuning in on 88.1 The Biff in Bloomfield Hills and surrounding communities. Or maybe listening to 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. Covers almost all of Macomb and a big chunk of Oakland County. We also thank you for watching today on Channel 15 on Comcast, on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Television. You can go to civiccentertv.com and check out the website where we stream 24/7. A great way to watch all this in high definition. And a big thank you today to the West Bloomfield School District for providing us with access to their Facebook page. Tyler, they just have, the students love Facebook, don't they? Because their Facebook page has so many followers, thousands of people tune in when we're on any of our fine school districts' Facebook pages. Hey, we're going to get to Dr. Carver in just a second, but I just want to let folks know, Tyler, this should all be simple, right? What we're doing here every day?
It really should be, but it's not.
It isn't. We tie together 3 radio stations, 2 television channels, Facebook Live, our own stream, our radio stream. You're in one room, I'm in another. We have a Zoom producer, Larry, who is amazing, makes all the Zoom stuff work because that gets complicated. And then Jeff, the executive producer of the program, is working 24 hours a day, booking the absolute best guests of any talk radio host. And, none of us, and then I'm leaving out half the rest of the crew here, but including Jake and everybody else. But, and all of us were doing other jobs 65 days ago. So I just want to take 30 seconds and salute our team. And they've been recognized by our municipalities and other people over the past several months for the fine work they're doing. But I just want to say thank you one more time. It ain't easy. It isn't easy, but thank you very much to all of them as we did this major pivot. Well, our next guest knows a lot about pivoting as well. She is Dr. Cynthia Carver, Associate Professor, Oakland University School of Education and Human Services. And Dr. Carver, thank you very much for joining us on the Megacast.
Thank you for the invitation.
Well, by the way, speaking of Facebook Live, when we were on the Oakland University Facebook Live page, the show set its record with 23,000 viewers on our show that day. Now, we had the president of your university on, but it's just amazing what's going on. So we have had so many great experts from Oakland University join us over the past couple of months, and I want to thank you for joining us as well.
It's a great place.
So I'm telling you, we're going to talk to other education experts, including our good friend, Dr. Hill in West Bloomfield, superintendent there. But, man, the pivot that educators have pulled off here over the past several months is absolutely amazing.
It is. It's astounding. It's astounding. And they deserve a hero's cheer for all they've done.
Do you want to talk about that, especially in the context of they had no notice? I mean, I remember the day this broke out. We were, obviously COVID-19 had been around, but the day that everything shut down, it happened really quick. I remember one morning we were getting ready to do a major event, and by the afternoon we decided that we couldn't have anyone in the building, and the next day we were, sending students home. There was literally no warning and no time for the schools to plan how to go.
Right. It's interesting because I was in contact with 2 superintendents at exactly that time. One of them was finishing her doctorate the morning schools were closed on campus, and we weren't sure whether we could even have her defense on campus, and was following and listening to all the deliberations that went around. What do you do when now children are home and you're still responsible for delivering instruction? What does that look like? What are the issues of access? That was one of that first week, so many questions about what can we do? What do we have to do? What do we do for those that don't have access? They either don't have access to Wi-Fi or they don't have the hardware, the computers the Chromebooks, the laptops, the iPads that are needed? Do you do packets of information that you print off and deliver? And we have some districts that did that initially. There were so many questions, and everybody's heads were spinning as we tried to decide how best to do that. And there were a number of districts that had to change their decision making from day to day.
But, we have focused so much on that over the past several months. The thing that we haven't spent as much time to talk about is the impact this had on teachers who were making all this happen, and the impact it will have on the teachers that you're working with, the future teachers in our schools. It wasn't just getting these plans in place. Teachers really needed to change so much of what they were doing every day. Can you tell us about what that change looked like for them?
Yeah. All of our teachers are acquainted with and use instructional technology in their classrooms. And that's true of our practicing teachers as well as the work we do with our teacher preparation students. But what's different is that's now the primary mode of delivery. And that is brand new to really wrap your head around how to do that. The teachers that I work with are really, really spending a lot of time thinking about engagement. How do we engage students in learning when it's primary through an online medium? How do we manage a classroom of students in a class meeting on Zoom? There are just all sorts of new questions that we're wrestling with. And I think that engagement piece is one of the biggest ones that I hear teachers talking about.
Dr. Cynthia Carver is our guest. She's Associate Professor, Oakland University School of Education and Human Services. And Dr. Carver, I assume it is you and your colleagues that are teaching people how to be teachers, if I am correct.
That's correct.
So, you're right in the middle of it. Have some of your former students who are out around Oakland County and elsewhere been talking to you, talking about the challenges? Have you had dialogue with them over the past couple of months?
Absolutely. And I have a number of students in graduate classes as well that I hear from. And I'm hearing a lot of the stress of worry and concern about children. Are they doing well at home? Are their needs being met? What is happening when students aren't logging on and participating? Lots of concerns in that regard, or making sure that they know how to use the technology or their questions are being answered. That's where I see a lot of the concern, as well as the creativity and the flexibility that's needed by a classroom teacher as they rethink how to prepare for, present, deliver instruction in this completely new medium.
Well, and what's good about there's always a lot of good. There is always a lot of good in every crisis, and we have good all over the place if you go to look for it. But at the same time that students are changing, everyone else is changing too, and the workplace that the students that are being educated right now will look very different than the workplace we all worked in even last year. So learning remotely at home in a home environment might be a very helpful skill for students as they get ready for their future business career.
Right. One of the things that when I'm talking with parents, like to stress is helping their child develop independence. That is something classroom teachers are always working on. How do I help the children in my classroom? And that's true at the elementary, middle, and high school level. Be independent in solving problems. How do I equip them with the tools to think through the problems that they face, that they don't even realize? We don't know what problems and decisions they're going to face. But how do we give them the skills for thinking through those problems, and also bringing the right resources to bear and developing that independence so our learners are confident and able to work independently is really important. And I think parents need to realize that too. They don't have to, and I hear this so much from parents. I felt like I had to watch over my child and make sure that they were doing what their teacher asked them to do. And I have to answer all their questions. And I think sometimes we have to say to children, what have you tried already? Did you try this? Why don't you spend 10 minutes on it and then come to me about it? We just really need to encourage that independence. And some of that comes from just having the confidence.
You know, you provoke some thought on my part here a moment ago. Dr. Cynthia Carver, associate professor, Oakland University School of Education, joining us. And let me get that complete. Oakland University School of Education and Human Services, joining us here on the Megacast. And Dr. Carver, you know, I was just thinking, I guess I never really thought about this until a moment ago. I was just thinking in the context of high school students, but you think about elementary students, you know, the socialization of a second grader or first grader or, you know, even third, fourth, fifth, all the way through the elementary years. That's maybe as important as, you know, learning how to read and write. And that can be a challenge in the internet or via Zoom.
Right. And you had asked me previously, what are teachers struggling with? And that is something that I'm hearing a lot of teachers talk about, is that they're missing their students and their students are missing their teachers, but also their classmates.
No, I get it.
So how do you create those Zoom team meetings and give people a chance to talk with one another? My neighbors across the backyard have two young boys, and they've been each other's playmates for several weeks, many weeks now. And it's important that kids have opportunities to socialize, as you said, enjoy their friendships. And the more we use technology to do that.
Dr. Carver, what tips would you have for parents? Because you're right, they all feel like they are the teacher now, now that they are right there with their students, if they are at home when their students are learning. Tips for parents?
Involve your children in as many things that you're doing around the house as possible and turn them into learning opportunities. So a lot of people are doing landscaping right now. Working out in their yards. Get your kids involved, get them excited about planting and watching things come up and grow. Help them in the kitchen, get them involved and have them preparing meals. Give them the responsibility to prepare meals. I was on a Finland school visit a couple years ago, and they're so good at having kids take on home responsibilities. If you're fixing up a room and doing some painting or doing drywall, involve your kids. I think we forget and we think that learning opportunities only exist in the walls of our schools, but learning opportunities exist everywhere for our kids. And if parents see that and take on that challenge, our kids will come through this pandemic.
Dr. Carver, can parents go too far, though, too? I mean, if they try to replace the teacher in the home, is that a mistake? And, you know, do they need to be cognizant at least to let the teacher be the teacher and let the parent be the parent?
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, because teachers are highly skilled and trained. They're able to, for example, let's take reading with young children. They're very specialized skills around being able to observe and work with a young learner as they're learning to parents to have those same skills. That's something a trained teacher spends a great deal of time developing that expertise. But what a parent can do is encourage children to read and then ask questions about what they're reading and model reading for their children. So I think it's helping parents realize that there are many ways in which, as a parent, by engaging kids in lots of questions, talking with them, sharing with them your own curiosities about the world, having them work alongside you as you take on projects around the house and the home, are all really good opportunities to help support learning, knowing that it's not going to replace what a teacher does, but it's going to augment it and enhance it in really important ways.
Dr. Carver, we only have a minute left. Dr. Cynthia Carver, Associate Professor, Oakland University School of Education and Human Services. Have you had to adjust or adapt your curriculum for teachers that you're working with and preparing for being out in the educational community?
We've had so many discussions about what things are going to look like in the fall and how we best prepare teachers. One of the things we're doing is we're going to be working with some new software that uses avatars. And we're excited to try that to give our students opportunities early on in their teacher preparation program to work on very finite skills. It might be leading a small group discussion with middle schoolers and managing the classroom dynamics that go on and using the avatars in those early classes, because we don't know what schools are going to look like in the fall, and we don't know how many opportunities our students are going to have. We have a number of our classes are taught in schools, and we're not sure what that's going to look like this fall. We also have students do 600 hours right up through student teaching in the local schools. So we're having to rethink how that happens and how we do that with social distancing on campus.
Yeah, and it looks to me like most of the schools are going to have to run at a much at best will be in the building maybe half of the time they were in the past. Is that what you see in your crystal ball?
My crystal ball has a couple different options, and we'll see what those look like. I won't get to choose what schools do. I think we all know that we want to give students as many opportunities for face-to-face instruction as possible, but we also need to be safe. And we're thinking about that a lot, students here on campus. So how can we use technology, leverage technology, and other tools that we have in our toolkit to ensure that the teachers that we're preparing are going to be well qualified and ready to start when they do graduate from our program.
All right, Dr. Carver, thank you for your time. Let's keep in touch. And this is the one, I would say, the main topic of conversation on the show. A lot of concern as parents, students, the community figure out how we go forward with education here in our country and at home in Oakland County. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
She is Dr. Cynthia Carver, Associate Professor, Oakland University School of Education and Human Services. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in a minute. Get an opportunity to talk to my friend Chris Wigent, Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators. We've certainly got a local view from our superintendents, and we're going to hear from one of them, Dr. Hill from West Bloomfield, but it would be good to get a statewide view, and we'll do that when we return. This is the Megacast on 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 The Biff, 89.5 Avondale Community Radio. You're watching on Channel 15 on Comcast, Civic Center TV and Birmingham Area Television, Channel 99 on AT&T. Thanks to the West Bloomfield School District for adding us today to their Facebook page. And don't forget, you can always go to civiccentertv.com and watch a program there. We'll be back in just a moment.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/contain-COVID. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Coronavirus has put us to the test. Now it's time to put it to the test. We've greatly expanded testing in Michigan, so people who think they may have COVID-19 with symptoms like fever, cough, and shortness of breath can get tested. And those without symptoms who work in public can now get tested, as they could carry the virus. Start by calling your healthcare provider or contacting a testing site near you. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft.
And I'm Dave Scott. Thank you for joining us in our Troy studios and in our West Bloomfield studios. Tyler, this is the most complicated little broadcast
Yeah, you're telling me.
I've ever been a part of. We've got all these radio stations all hooked up together. We really appreciate it. We really have kind of taken over the whole southern part of the radio dial in Oakland County, haven't we?
We have three of the main top stations in the community format that are in those lower ends of the FM dial.
So all you got to do is tune around on the bottom of the FM dial, and you are likely to find us if you are traveling around Oakland County. But 89.3 FM, 88.1 FM, 89.5 FM, and thank you to our various television outlets. We've been doing this for about 65 days as we continue to give you the latest information on what's going on with the coronavirus, and we've been able to do it at a very street level. So you may see one thing in the general paid media, and the professional media, and I guess you can call us the community media. You get a little different perspective here because we talk here in West Bloomfield and in Troy and in Avondale, in all of our communities. And it's given us a really interesting and I think unique perspective of what's really going on. And I thank you for being a part of that each and every day. However, every once in a while it is good to step back and look a little bit more global. And that's what we're going to do right now. And I'm so happy that Chris Wigent has taken time for us today. He is the executive director of the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators. Chris, thank you very much for taking time for the show today.
Absolutely, Dave. It's great to be here, and it's very interesting to hear the outreach that you in the Oakland County and the suburban area. It's very nice.
Well, we're having a good time with it. And, speaking of education, the 3 FM radio stations are all licensed to various school districts around here. So they have been put into service while the students are not in the building in other ways. So we're really glad to be able to do this. We won't be doing this forever, but during this period of time, it's been great. And that has been our pivot. Chris, I assume superintendents around the state, they have their hands full, that they have to be working on a variety of pivots to deal with this whole crisis, the economic side of it and the logistics side of it. How are the superintendents holding up?
I think I think we continue to be motivated and energized, but I speak for myself when I say it's been a long 3 months. I think back to March 10th, 12th, when suddenly we learned that schools were shutting down, districts had to hurry and really plan to get their continuity of learning plan together for the rest of the year for the remote learning students. And throughout that time, we worked on food service delivery. We worked on all kinds of things, connection for internet and devices and packets and everything else. And then, a few weeks after that, we started to hear rumblings about fiscal emergency, and we're wrapping up this quote unquote school year, and now the attention turns to next year, both from a fiscal standpoint and an operational standpoint.
Well, it's going to be a challenge. And the thing that I didn't understand at first, that I have a better understanding of now after talking to a number of experts over the past couple of weeks, is schools generally end their fiscal year right in the middle of the summer. And they start a new one typically on July 1st. So not only are schools having to figure out how to operate next year, what is clearly going to be a year where there are budget constraints because there just isn't as much money to go around. But this year, that these changes come at the very end of their fiscal year. Is that creating a problem because the schools have less money this year as well?
Well, absolutely. And we are really hoping that there won't be prorations this year because we have 15 days, maybe 14 days left in our fiscal year. And so you think about that for the state to come in and say, by the way, you've got 14 days left in your fiscal year, but we're going to cut you $700 a kid on money that you probably already spent, that is an impossible situation. And so we're hoping that there will not be cuts for the next 14 days, but we understand that then starting our next fiscal year, we've got some work to do.
Do you expect that's what is going to happen, that there won't be any additional cuts this year?
Well, if I say there won't, there will be. And if I say there will be, there won't. We just don't have solid information on that. It would be a guess. It wouldn't even maybe be an educated guess at this point. But I know what the hope is. And the hope is that we get through without anything in the next 14 days.
Structurally, can the state do that retroactively? Could the state come back and say, hey, look, we didn't have the money that we expected, and sometime right before July 1st say, hey, look, we are not going to deliver all the money that we expected? Or is this a proration that you mentioned? We've heard that term from a lot of other educators. Does that have to happen while the school days are actually in progress?
No, that can happen during our fiscal year. And it's happened before, not quite like this. It's happened sometimes in the middle when things start to go bad. But like everything else, this is unique. And for your listeners, a proration really is where the state comes in and takes a certain amount of money out of your budget, and you have to then fix your budget based on what money was taken out.
So I don't know what, I laugh because I don't know what else to do. But I want to ask you what advice you're giving superintendents around the state of Michigan. It can't be easy.
Again, we tell them this is our best information that we have, speaking to people in Lansing, speaking to other governmental agencies. What we're suggesting is you stand by, of course, for the proration this year, but for next year, you budget up to $700 per pupil reduction in your budget. And so that would mean you'd take your current budget, subtract $700, multiply it by the number of students you're going to have, and that's the cut, and maybe the minimal cut that you're going to have to look forward to for next year. And like you said, our fiscal year ends very soon, and so we have to come out with a budget on July 1st. We have to put something together, and so that's our advice, $700 less per student. Now, there's an asterisk there. The asterisk is we are really hoping and working with labor, working with other education associations and other groups to try to come up with some help at the federal level to offset that $700 per pupil loss.
Well, and that is the one place that I can't say it can be easily done, but it's really going to be difficult for the state of Michigan. There's only so much shifting around the state can do. The state lost all kinds of revenue this year. It's just the reality of the situation, and you can only move so many things around. There's only so much relief. Is that $700 student relief even available in the state budget if they were to cut all the other programs? Who knows?
Yeah, who does know? What I do know is that we've heard from the governor, we've heard from several representatives, they don't want to cut schools. But I think you're spot on. The math is the math. They reduced the amount of money that they just heard. The amount that was reported was even millions less than what they expected from a reduced standpoint. So we know the impact the COVID-19 had, and that was fewer people working, less revenue, and this all makes sense. And so no one's pointing fingers and saying that the state's hiding money they don't have. That's not what we're thinking this time. We know it's the reality. And so we turn to the feds. They've been able to buy out and help support the airlines and other major industries. And we think education ranks right up there as number one in the nation as far as the future goes. So we hope that they're in this investment mode. We hope that they will then take a look at their true priorities and provide investment in public education.
Is there a timetable that you would like to see the federal government act within? I mean, because it's, complications come up in Washington, things get delayed, tough to move legislation anyway in the summer at all. I mean, if this happens in September or October, is it too late?
Well, it's never too late. It will create some real issues for districts because they will base their budget on $700 less. If the money comes in a couple months later, they'll be able to reinstate some things. But yeah, trying to add teachers or trying to make some major shifts a couple months into the school year procedurally is very difficult. And who knows where we're going to be 2 months into the school year? We could have everyone home. We could have everyone at school. We could have a modified plan. This is really, really complex. Even for those of us who have been around forever, we feel like first-year superintendents because we've never seen this before.
Well, I got to tell you, I got to tell you, Chris Wigent, Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Superintendents. I think the greatest quote, and I use this quote almost every day, the greatest quote that I had during this whole process on the show came from a first-year superintendent, Pat Watson, in Bloomfield Hills. And Pat was on talking about this. We were having a really great conversation. And he said, you know, Dave, we can really hope that everything is going to work out this way or the other way, but hope is not a plan. And, you know, that's a really good sentence. And he's right. Hope is not a plan. We have to have a plan. And you know, and I know superintendents are working on contingencies A, B, C, and D, and we will get through this. Is there a way, now you represent all the superintendents in the state and administrators, you get them together for meetings and conferences. Are there things that schools can do together to release some of the pain and relieve some of the pain and burden, or at least share some strategies during this time?
Yeah, that's really a good point. As you may know, and as your listeners may know, there are intermediate school districts or RESAs or ISDs that provide services and leadership to the school districts in their county. We're really encouraging counties to take a look at having some consistent plans in place so that regardless of whether I'm in District A in this county or District B in this county, there's going to be the same kind of plans. And we still encourage, and a lot's going on, but we still encourage that consolidation of services at the county level, especially right now to try to cut costs because every dollar counts. And you're right, hope is not a plan. We have a lot of planning going on, and I would rather see plans in place, as would our parents, as would our teachers, and then adjust as necessary. So I will tell you from a statewide perspective, and you're right, plans A through D are being put into place. And from where I sit, we might have to use all.
Chris and Wigent, anything else you want to add today that you might think might be helpful to our friends and students and educators and parents?
You know, I think some empathy and some support at this time for our school districts. We're doing the best we can with what we have. Hopefully every superintendent's communicating. It's not a perfect setup. $700 per child is going to have an impact. We'll keep the impact to children minimal, of course. But be open to change and be open to understanding what we're going through, because whatever you're going through in your personal life as a result of COVID-19 is happening at a magnified level at the school district.
Well, I can well imagine, and you know, hopefully we've seen some action already, but you know, hopefully corporate America, as it rebounds and gets some strength and gets back on its feet, can also get more involved in education and help out. There's a lot of other ways we can all lend a hand to education during these challenging times. So.
Well, if I could, let's take the positive spin here.
Sure.
And look at the focus this is provide on how valuable teachers are. I mean, parents are ready to send their kids to school. We've kind of reinvigorated the teaching profession because there's been a lot of positive things about that. Districts have done things with remote or virtual learning they might not have done before because of the rules and requirements. We're thinking outside of the box. And I think that as history will show, this COVID-19 is going to produce a big change in public education in our state. And I think that's a positive. So I think moving forward, we're feeling the pain right now, but down the road, this is a great investment in our future for public education.
It is. And Chris, I always knew you were an optimist. Station. Thank you very much for being with us. Good to chat with you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sounds great. Nice to see you, Dave. Good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. He is Chris Wigent, Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators, and we really appreciate him being with us today here on the Megacast. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in a minute, and Tyler and I have a little chance to chat, and then we're going to talk to one of these great superintendents, Dr. Jerry Hill, Superintendent of West Bloomfield Schools, checks in with us next hour, and a whole lot more. So don't go away. This is 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH, Bloomfield Hills, and 89.5 WAHS, Auburn Hills, all part of the Megacast, and we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonae Caldoon. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. The people who are at highest risk of getting severely ill from COVID-19 are the elderly and those with chronic medical conditions. That includes people with heart disease, diabetes, COPD, or those who have compromised immune systems. People who are in those categories should right now be staying at home as much as possible and not going out if it is not essential. If you fit into one of those categories, those are the things you should do. And if you have a family member who fits into one of those categories, you should be checking in on them and making sure they are following those guidelines. There's something everyone can do to protect the community from COVID-19.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Park's COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft.
And I'm Dave Scott. We are all across Oakland County today. We thank you very much for tuning in to the Megacast on Civic Center TV, on Birmingham Area Municipal Television, and watching, of course, as you can every day, right here at civiccentertv.com. Tyler, there's an awful lot on the Civic Center TV website other than our live stream.
Yes, there is. We have plenty of on-demand footage, both from the Oakland County Megacast and our other programming, which includes municipal meetings and other various updates. You can get all of that information on civiccentertv.com. Click on the Megacast page and get all of our full episodes, our video interviews, and our clips as well from today's episode and other episodes as well.
You know, and Chris was talking a couple of minutes ago, Chris Wigent from the Michigan Association of School Administrators was talking about a further reliance that our schools may have on the county. And yesterday we had a chance to talk to Dr. Wanda Cook Robinson from the Oakland schools. We'll have a chance to talk to Dr. Hill from West Bloomfield Schools, superintendent there, in a couple of minutes, and just further that dialogue. But if you a lot of information, those interviews from yesterday. All you have to do is go to the Megacast link at civiccentertv.com, and you can see the full episodes, short clips, and the full interviews of everyone who is on the show, along with information about the broadcast and the radio stations that we are on. In addition, the coronavirus page has the top news stories of the day. We're going to rip through these real quick, just to bring you up to date on what's going on. And also has direct links. And Tyler, it's so important now that people go visit these links. We've been doing this for 65 days, so sometimes we forget to remind people just the daily things that they can do to make this all better. But that information is contained in the links that you will find on our coronavirus page, the Center for Disease Control, the state of Michigan, the Oakland County links, and then many of our communities, direct links to their websites with a lot more information. The Oakland County front, it was really nice as Erica was in the field the other day, Tyler, to see that those 10,000 kits, those reopening kits that Oakland County put together for businesses were being put to use. We saw evidence of it out in the field yesterday.
Yeah, we're seeing it all over the place, too. It was great to see that yesterday at one of the nail salons. We've seen it at some of the restaurants as well, and they're being put to good use, which is great news considering they had so many of them and passed them out to many local businesses all throughout the county. And if they're being used at some places, they're presumably being used at a lot of places to help keep our community safe.
Well, under statewide rules from the governor right now, our municipalities can start to open back up, and that is exactly what's happening. We're beginning to see our communities' offices open up, and that's really good if you are in need of something from your local, township or your local city, and you need to get in and settle up with them or get some information about something going on. And, then we had the Secretary of State on last week. Those offices are opening. And I've been using her tips. Secretary of State said if you want to get an appointment, in one of those offices, best way to do it is to go on late at night, and they release appointments, last-minute appointments every day. So been trying to get an appointment. In fact, I don't know about you, Tyler. Most of my life right now is spent trying to get an appointment.
Not so much with me, but I can definitely sympathize with that. There's a lot to make appointments for right now. If you have, like you said, issues you need to take care of with the Secretary of State, or if you've been waiting a few weeks since doctor's offices reopened, or if you're trying to get a haircut like all of us are trying to do, there's so many appointments out there.
Yeah, I got to get my hair. I have not been able to get a hair appointment yet. So we're working on all those things, and I know you are too. But again, the source for a lot of information, go to civiccentertv.com and go to the coronavirus page, and you'll find a lot. You will also every day find the top news stories that we're keeping an eye on around the state. And this is not all the news, but some of the things that are impacting our communities the most. And up at the top of the list today, Metro Detroit Movie Theater plans to reopen 15th Film Festival without approval from the state of Michigan. What do you think this is going to turn into? You think this is going to turn into another epic battle? The governor, the local sheriff, the barbershop owner. Is it going to turn into another one of those?
I think it might be something along those lines, but not as severe, considering it's only a plan for a one-day event. But with it being planned and being announced several days out, there may be some backlash and some back and forth before that day, and maybe even on the day of. But it's a one-day thing, and I think that it's just going to be one of those situations where you hope for the best and you hope that it's a safe environment, and I think the state lets it go at that point, or at least very much advises against it.
Paul Glantz, the chairman of Imagine Entertainment, is very philanthropic, very involved in the community, is certainly in the media a lot. I'm sure he already has. I didn't turn on the television news last night, but I bet he was there. We will call Paul today and see if we can get him on the show tomorrow, talk to him about this, and just wonder why to do this. Do you think and we're speculating, do you think they did this to push the envelope so the governor would take another look at getting theaters open? Or do you think there's some other motivation, or am I trying to overanalyze this?
I think it's partially a little bit of both. I think the primary motivation is to raise awareness for the Juneteenth holiday and to bring more awareness to Black artists in film and in cinema. But I also think that from a business side, there's a lot of motivation to encourage reopening of theaters. If you're Paul Glantz of Imagine Theaters and other theaters in the area, and showing that you can operate safely for a day is one way of showing that there's possibilities there and that there are operations that are being trained for and in place that possibly could allow for a safe reopening. I think it's a two-pronged issue.
All right, state certainly has its challenges right now, and that's affecting people right here at home. I urge you, when you go to the Michigan.gov page that you can find through the Civic Center TV page. I mean, just easy. Go to Civic Center TV. You'll see all the municipalities there. You get into the Michigan site. They really, like the Oakland County site, they have a lot of information and all the different programs that are available. And here's some of the main resources that you'll find when you go to the state site: emergency assistance, where you can apply for energy, health insurance, food, and other assistance, unemployment assistance. I almost hesitate to read that because the unemployment insurance agency here in the state of Michigan is running so far behind because there are so many unemployed, and it's a real problem. But nonetheless, you can certainly try to get a hold of them. And I think if you're persistent, then you probably will get some assistance at some point. If you don't, call your state rep. They have another link in here, Tyler. It's called Meet Up and Eat Up, where you can find a local school meal that you can get a meal. And it's all a part of the support from the Michigan Department of Education and the Meet Up and Eat Up program. The schools, are they going to continue to provide meals throughout the summer, or do you think that's going to go on a hiatus? We'll ask Dr. Hill in a minute, but did we talk about that yet?
I don't think we have talked about it. We definitely haven't talked about that plans for the summer. I would imagine with programs like Meet Up and Eat Up, they may continue. I believe they do typically end in the summer, and it may be, in this case, a school by school, district by district basis, but maybe not. We'll find out.
Okay, there's also business assistance for those of you that are trying to make it through these difficult days. And then there is the job listing. And, it's interesting, Tyler, because the last couple of days, we are seeing more and more reports, even though there's a lot of the restaurants, retail establishments, and even places like Mackinac Island, for goodness sakes, are having difficulty finding people to fill jobs.
I can imagine why, and part of it's got to be because people, like you said earlier on in the show when we talked about some jobs issues with getting people back in the office, they're comfortable being at home, and they're happy continuing to be on unemployment while the pandemic continues. There maybe is a little bit of apprehension to get back into the office or to get back to work altogether, and or maybe people are just looking for the right fit. They're coming back from off the job market, off from unemployment, and maybe they're looking for a next opportunity. I'm sure there's many issues why it's tough to find people to fill these jobs.
Yeah, well, but why? I was thinking about that when I heard the report this morning that they're having trouble filling jobs not only here in Metro Detroit, but some of the really nice vacation destinations. And not everybody can, haul away for a couple of months. But if you're in the unique situation, especially at college students, Tyler, I really feel right now for college students that just graduated, and they're coming out at a time it's going to be very, very difficult to get a job in the career that they've been educated for. So maybe they need to take a summer, let things percolate a little bit in the employment arena, go up and work on Mackinac Island for the summer, have a good time, and enjoy your last quote unquote summer of a college student lifestyle, and for a job in the fall.
Yeah, that may be a possibility, and it depends on the industry as well. Some industries are going to come back at somewhat full strength, or be looking to fill positions that maybe are no longer occupied because people who are on unemployment decided they weren't going to come back. And other industries, like you said, are going to be really tough for people with no experience in the industry or very little experience in the industry coming out of school to break into and get that foot in the door opportunity. So it may not be a bad idea to take a different job, a part-time job, or whatever it may be, for a summer or for a few months while you wait for the job market to open up a little bit more in your field.
So, and finally, on the State of Michigan website, there's a listing of all the executive orders that have come out. 123 in all, Tyler. Last time we read the ones that were still in place. It took a half an hour of the show to bring everybody up to date on those. And, you maybe didn't like what the governor did during the past several months, but she was busy. You can find each and every of those 123 executive orders that are in place and go and see which ones still affect you at michigan.gov, and then click on the link for executive orders. We're going to take a quick break. You will find all that at civiccentertv.com. We encourage you to go in and watch the stream, go to all those pages, surf around a little bit if you have a minute or two. A tremendous amount of information. And Tyler, I guess I would be remiss if I didn't say that every single interview we've done over the past 65 days, it's almost a documentary of what this whole era has been like here in Michigan, and certainly in Oakland County. Every single interview is in there. You can go back and watch it anytime you want. We're going to take a break. Another important component of this show every day is checking in with Erica Jones. We understand she is in Troy today. We'll find out where she is, what she's up to, and what she's encountering when we return. This is the Megacast, and we'll be right back.
Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Coronavirus has put us to the test. Now it's time to put it to the test. We've greatly expanded testing in Michigan, so people who think they may have COVID-19 with symptoms like fever, cough, and shortness of breath can get tested. And those without symptoms who work in public can now get tested, as they could carry the virus. Start by calling your healthcare provider or contacting a testing site near you. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft.
And I'm Dave Scott. Thank you very much for joining us on the show today. We are on 3 great radio stations around Oakland County. That includes Lakes FM 89.3 in the West Bloomfield area, 88.1 WBFH The Biff in Bloomfield Hills, and 89.5 Avondale Community Radio in Auburn Hills. Thanks for watching on Channel 15 Comcast, on Birmingham Area Television, and of course Civic Center TV. Thank you also for tuning in today at civiccentertv.com. And a huge thanks to the West Bloomfield School District, whose superintendent will be on the show here in just a couple of minutes, for putting us on Facebook Live on the school district site. It's been primarily all about education today, and that continues in just a moment when we talk to Dr. Gerald Hill. But right now, let's check in with our own Erica Jones, another proud West Bloomfield Schools graduate who now is a student at the University of Miami. And every summer, she has been with us and is back again this summer doing great reports each and every day. Erica, where are you today and what are you running into?
Hey, Dave. So I am at Marshall's in Troy on Maple and Crooks, right near our Troy offices, actually. And they just reopened yesterday, so they were a little late to the game for retail reopenings. And, you know, anytime you send me to any type of retail establishment, I will find something for myself. So I'm in the too busy, actually. You know, I mean, there's a good amount of people in here. When I walked in, they had a sign that said the maximum capacity was 120, and they also had people right when you walked in that were sanitizing carts. I didn't need a cart, but they were doing that, so that was really nice to see. And yeah, like I said, really not too many people. They have signs on the floor, but everything is running very smoothly. You can't even really tell that there's a pandemic going on when you're in here, other than the fact that everyone is adhering to
Well, we
wearing their
talked to the
mask.
Bloomfield Township police chief earlier, and he said, Erica, that they had been called out to a couple of establishments that weren't quite following the rules. But it seems that every time you've been out, they are. You've got the sign, the social distancing signs on the floor, and directions. What else is there that's maybe
Yeah.
new and a little bit different as shoppers head out?
Yeah, so these aren't so much social distancing signs, they are just one-way signs. So there's nothing that specifically says 6 feet on the floor like we've seen at some other places. And to be honest, other than that, like I said, you wouldn't really know that we're in a pandemic other than people wearing masks and them cleaning carts when you walk in. Everything in this store looks pretty normal on the racks and everyone's
All
shopping
right.
like normal. So
Well, that's
not
good news.
much,
That's good news
to be
because
honest.
it has taken people a little bit of time to get back in the habit of going out. We saw that with several of your reports. A lot of the
Definitely.
places you've gone to, there hasn't been too many people there. So good to see that you are encountering people. We're making progress. We did see information come out today that the new retail economic numbers for May were improved. April was such an awful month. I guess it's really no big surprise. Still a long way to go, but glad you're.
Seems like it. I know I am. Maybe I'll contribute and buy the couple things that are in my hand. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, everyone seems to be in great spirits and happy to be back out
All right,
shopping.
Erica.
So I think it's
Very
a
good.
great
Thank
day
you very
here.
much for your report. When Erica gets back to the University of Miami in the fall, hopefully she will, amid the pandemic. When you get back to school, people are going to ask you, so what was your summer job? Well, I went shopping. Not.
I'll shut
not
up. Everything. All right,
All
Dave. I
right.
will see
There
you
she
guys
is, Erica
soon.
Jones in the field and checking in as we continue to get updates on what's going on out in the real world here in our program. Joining us now is Dr. Gerald Hill, Superintendent of West Bloomfield School District. And Dr. Hill, thank you very much for joining us again today on the Megacast.
Well, thank you, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here. I know that you've been very busy in the role of these megacasts. They're great shows, by the way. Very, very good community.
Well, thank you, Dr. Hill. I really appreciate it. And it's been a big day for education. Last couple of days, we've been primarily talking about education. We just had Chris Wigent on, the executive director of the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators. We talked to Dr. Cynthia Carver, who is at Oakland University's School of Education and Human Services. We had the folks on yesterday from the from Oakland schools, and everyone knows that budgets are going to be tight. Chris told us a couple of minutes ago the working number $700 per student. Is that what you're expecting as far as a budget cut for next year?
I'm not expecting it. We're hoping that it doesn't happen, because if you combine that loss with the increased cost and have a viable program for the community, that's too big of a loss.
So, well, okay, let's get right off to the harsh reality of the day here. So yeah, that's a pretty difficult pill to swallow. And so you must be hoping that we're going to get help from the federal government, because the state doesn't really have much additional money either.
No, the state has a little bit. They can help us out with the shortfall for this fiscal year, which ends June 30th. But in order to be able to open with a quality program with all of the safeguards that will be required under COVID-19 guidelines that we have yet to receive, we're going to need the help from the federal government. So I'm looking at Senate Resolution 124 in the state of Michigan Senate, where they're urging Congress to come up with a state and local government relief package, and one that specifically addresses some of the major shortfalls in education funding.
Well, and I assume that you and the rest of the education community are doing all you can to lobby our members of Congress here in Michigan and our two U.S. senators.
Yes, we are, and press from education people across the United States, bringing to the attention of their representatives in the Senate and Congress, because how do we have a full recovery or even the hopes of a recovery if we aren't going to be providing educational services for students that are accessible, that parents can count on, and that parents can then focus on going to work themselves and not being the teacher of students. But some of that may even be required with this new guidelines that are yet to come out. So.
Well, our fingers are crossed. We hope that all works, and that we get the funding that we need from the federal government to help out our schools. A couple of minutes ago, we were talking, and we were just perusing our way through the state's website, looking at some of the amazing things that are happening, and certainly right near the top of the list has been the efforts by school districts around the state to help feed people during this crisis. And we know you've been doing that since day one of the COVID-19 breakout. Is that going to continue through the summer?
Yeah, great question, Dave. We have been feeding students. We did not lose a day in terms of food service for families. Right now, we're doing curbside pickup. The curbside pickups are either at Roosevelt Elementary or Orchard Lake Middle School, and it's a couple times a week. The students are getting breakfast and lunch 7 days a week, and anybody can sign up and pick those meals up. We are going to continue that program throughout. So what the interest is and what the need is, and we currently still have the 2 locations, but we'll monitor that as we go. But we intend to be serving the breakfast and lunch meals through August the 25th, which are going to be our planned first day of school. So we have plans to continue that. It's been approved by the state and the federal government, so the funding is there for that service.
You are the first district in the state of Michigan to put together a plan for the fall, if I'm correct, and certainly got a lot of notice by others as they were working on their plans. Meanwhile, article in the Oakland Press came out last week that included a survey stating that 30% of parents are worried about the coronavirus, COVID-19, not feel comfortable about their children returning for in-person classes. We've also seen some reluctance of people to get back out in the community. Erica was just out in the stores, and when these various businesses open up, people don't just swarm out. They're a little cautious. So I wonder if you saw the Oakland Press survey and you have any thoughts about it.
Yes, and our internal surveys indicate that about 30% of our families are telling us as of a May 23rd survey, and we have close to 1,400 families, and that's not duplicates of families with multiple children. So that's a good percentage of our student population. About 30% families say they want remote instruction only. Now, I would be willing to bet that about 30% want face-to-face only, because they're pretty worn out. And in all honesty, not all homes have a good setup for learning at home. And so there's that counterbalancing need. So our plan, that the framework that we have been developing, and we were one of the first to come out with a framework, it's a continuum of options. And that continuum goes from, we'd love to have everybody back face-to-face, back to the way we were pre-16th. The likelihood of that doesn't look all that hopeful at this point. And so we have a blended learning option where we will have 50% of our students in attendance and 50% not on any given school day. And then it goes all the way to that totally remote option. And our staff have been working day and night in terms of developing Lakers Online is what we will be calling our totally remote option. And that will be staffed by West Bloomfield teachers. It will be West Bloomfield curriculum. It will be open to all residents within West Bloomfield School District. And then we will have the blended learning option as well. And then depending on what the governor's task force for continuation of learning comes up with, we will be following all of those guidelines. But we know enough of the guidelines that we have been looking at food service and transportation and maintenance and custodian and what we need to do differently to accommodate the face-to-face part of the plan.
So forgive me, Dr. Hill, because I'm usually doing about 20 things in the background while I'm doing the show. Did I hear you say that this Laker.com or this new interface, this new is going to be available if parents want to have their students stay home 100% of the time, or is there going to be a specific plan that all students will participate in that will have them at home at some point and in the school at some point?
Yes to both.
Really? Okay, great.
We will definitely have the online program only available. Now, within that, we will try to carve out times where teachers can have office hours and be meeting with students and that type of thing. But it's basically an online program, and there are several models out there that we're looking at.
Well, I mean, that's remarkable, really. I mean, there's always good that comes out of everything. And I guess the good that comes out of this is your opportunity to create some individually designed education and be able to really deploy that.
Yeah, yes, and our staff has been remarkable in their dedication to that effort. The creativity within the teaching and learning department, the foresight to put together a plan. One of the key components of that plan is a new learning management system, and that's getting real technical, but it will be a lot better than with our Google Classrooms, which is very cumbersome to navigate for the end user. And so this new learning management system will be a whole lot more streamlined for students and for families and for teachers. And it'll be a sort of like a one-stop remote shop kind of environment for teaching and learning.
So yesterday we had Dr. Wanda Cook Robinson on the air from Oakland Schools, and I know you guys interface quite a bit. Is there more that we can do to combine services between districts through schools to be able to reduce cost, or have we pretty much tapped that out? I mean, I know that Oakland Schools is already involved in your district, but the things that we can do at a countywide level to either combine services or help solve some problems regionally.
Sure, and to Dr. Cook Robinson's credit, they are always looking at ways to combine forces like consortium type purchasing, and they will continue to do that. We use technology services. We have a contract with Oakland Schools, as several school districts do. We're small enough that we don't have that expertise in-house, and so we hire them. We're also looking at different ways of cooperating. The Oakland County Superintendents, as an example, are working with Oakland Schools on several different committees dealing with the back-to-school planning. And we are a part of those committees as well, so we'll tap into that. And so there are multiple ways that we can look at to combine forces and become more of economy of scale purchasing.
Yeah, I mean, clearly each of the school districts historically have had their independence from each other. But as things go online, maybe there's some things, even from a curriculum standpoint, that you could be doing together.
Yeah, there's no sense recreating the wheel. We can combine forces, combine resources, combine the skills and the capacity of all the districts and put together more of a unified approach to this. Ours is called, classroom to cloud framework, but when you peel back all the layers, the continuum is the same for everybody. Everybody's going to have to look at an online version. Everybody wants to have face-to-face, but we're all going to probably be in that gray area in the middle for some time until there is more assurance that the CDC has regarding a vaccine or a treatment for COVID-19.
And in talking to the superintendents yourself and your colleagues around our service area, you folks all talk to each other. So this is good. And I imagine you've been on the phone even more than you have in the past. Dr. Cook Robinson alluded to it yesterday as well. So if there are solutions that you can work on together, you have a good framework here in our backyard and a good mutual respect.
Yeah, that's true. And you mentioned Chris Wigent. He's the outgoing executive director for the MASA, the Michigan Association of Superintendents. And one of the things that they do, we tap into that group as well. And so there are statewide consortia, there are countywide consortia, and several of us are in several of the various groups. And so that way we can share resources and not have to go into this blind And the key is what's best for students. What's best for students' safety. What's best for teachers' safety. We mentioned parent preference. We have a lot of teachers who are age 60 or older or have some health conditions that may come in to be comfortable with face-to-face at this point too. So we will match that up in our plan where we have teachers that focus more explicitly on the remote learning and others on the face-to-face.
Tyler and I are also both wondering, from a somewhat selfish standpoint, whether we're going to get to call any football games on the radio this fall. You've been looking into your crystal ball on that one? Is that off the table?
I think it's still being looked at by the MHSAA. I know they're starting to have some guidelines regarding practices and off-season workouts, and we will be implementing those. It remains to be seen what the rules will be or guidance will be for the games themselves. If there are games, how many fans in the stands? You may be your role may increase. It might be online play-by-play that we watch rather than in person, but we'll see how that goes. One of the things that I need to stress on that is all of the decisions that people are making are doing with the eye towards safety for students and making it not only a safe environment but a healthy environment, but not taking away opportunities that students have. Several of them really enjoy the extracurricular, whether it's football or choir or band or orchestra, and those are all things that we have to look at a little differently under the current circumstances.
Well, I can't speak for Tyler. He's in here. He can chime up on his own. But if we are the only ones in the stands broadcasting the event, that will still be there if that situation is where we end up. But I hope for the students' sake that at least some of the activities, athletic and extracurricular activities, are able to proceed. Just thinking here for a minute, Dr. Hill, and you're such a good friend of ours in the show, and everything that we do at Civic Center TV and Lakes FM. That I'm just thinking friend to friend here. I know the term new normal is the term, but I'm just thinking and wondering, are we ever going to get back to, forget new normal, are we going to get, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Are we going to get back to normal? Do you see that at some point for us?
Every time I think I see it, I hear a report from Dr. Fauci at the national level, and I go, well, I guess not. So I think we have to really pay attention to the medical expertise. And this is an issue that sometimes is frustrating because it's not a political issue. It's not an issue of will. It's what's the prudent approach from a medical perspective. The inconvenience of wearing a mask, I'll go for that and have a little bit more freedoms as opposed to not wearing masks and starting the pandemic all over again or continuing it. So.
Well, I'm confident that we're going to get there, and we will look back on these days and go back into the archives of all these interviews we've done. I'm sure sometime after I retire and go look back at 2020 and remember this crazy year that we had and all the adjustments that we had to make and how difficult it was, yet all of the changes changes for the good that have really come out of this. I'm sure that's going to be the case. Dr. Hill, thank you for being with us. I have one final question. People in your community and probably in some of our other communities around Oakland County might drive up the road and like they do in West Bloomfield and Orchard Lake Road and see the construction of a big school building being constructed and say, well, they have a lot of money. They can build this big school. Can you explain how the difference between capital and operating and how all that works? Because you can understand how, we're here talking about this terrible educational budget crisis and they see the construction going on, and people need to make sense of that.
Yeah. So I would be pleased to. So in 2017, we passed a bond issue that provided funding for construction of the new school plus renovating all of our other schools. And that money is explicitly earmarked, and we can only spend it on construction-related projects. We cannot put it into operations. However, when we get the new middle school built, that means we go from 2 middle schools to 1, so we will save operational dollars. because we won't have to have duplicate administration, duplicate services, etc. So we will be saving operational dollars, and that's a credit to the taxpayers, the school board for putting the issue on the ballot, and the taxpayers for supporting it. And so we are excited about it. It's starting to come out of the ground. You can see the block work going up right now, and it's going to be a fantastic learning facility. And we are looking at how to make that as safe and functional a building as possible. The design is fantastic. One other thing I would like to say, and
Sure.
this goes more to you and your team, the Megacast that you've been doing over the last several weeks have been invaluable service to our community, and we're pleased to participate in these because it's a way to get the word out locally, what's happening. A lot of times local news gets drowned in all of the dynamics and clutter of the national or state scene. And I think you guys are providing a fantastic service for the residents and for the people like me and others you interview to tell our stories and to express ourselves in terms of here's what we're trying to do for making our community a fantastic place. And I really appreciate Civic Center TV's approach to the Megacast and the role you're playing in this whole pandemic.
Well, thank you very much. We are appreciative of your comments, and it's been hard work. We have a whole team. There are more people working on this broadcast. I mean, from Larry, who is our Zoom producer, to Jeff, who's the executive producer of the show. All the social media needs to be handled. We have to do the show. It's not a simple process. So we have a great team here, but it's a labor of love for each and every one of us. So thank you for your comments. And a huge thanks to the schools, because you and your colleagues around our service area have been fantastic guests, been very willing to come on and share the information. And we really appreciate the 3 radio stations that we're on are all radio stations that are licensed to school districts here. And given the current situation, I think we're putting them to good use right now. So thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Hill, good to be with you today. Thanks again, and best of luck through these challenging days ahead.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, Tyler, there he is, Dr. Jerry Hill from the West Bloomfield School District. And we are going to take a break. We'll be back in a couple of moments. Tyler and I wrap up the show. Erica Jones just walked into our Troy office. We'll see if we can figure out a way to configure things so we can get her in here to say hello, and we will be right back. This is the Megacast.
Hello, I'm Dr. Betty Chu, Chief Quality Officer at Henry Ford Health System, and I'm with Wright Lassiter, Henry Ford Health System's CEO, to talk about coronavirus.
In uncertain times, it's natural to have questions. So I'm going to ask Dr. Chu to answer some of the common ones. First, why can't I visit my grandma to see if she's okay?
Because the elderly are at a higher risk for complications with this disease, and you could inadvertently infect her.
If I'm healthy, why can't I go out with my friends?
The larger the crowd you're exposed to, the higher the chance you could get infected and infect others.
If I have symptoms, why do I have to seek care?
While the disease isn't dangerous for most people, for others it can be. We need to understand how serious your case is, because the right choices save lives. For more information, visit henryford.com or call 313-874-1055.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
Welcome back to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe.
And Tyler Keefe, I'm Dave Scott, along with Erica Jones. See if I can get this microphone. Hi, Erica.
Hey, I'm excited to finally be here at the Troy offices. I've never been here before.
Well, it's good to have you here. I know you were out shopping here, and mingling around with the public today as you do each and every day. Thank you for joining us on the Megacast, and our whole team hard at work all across Oakland County. We thank our great radio stations, 89.3 Lakes FM, of course, 88.1 The Biff, and 89.5 Avondale Community Radio, Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Television. You can watch both those in Channel 15. And then you can also, of course, go to Civic Center TV on AT&T, where you will find us on Channel 99. Tyler, it gets hard sometimes at my advanced age to think and surf the web at the same time as I'm doing right now.
I can imagine it can be a little tough to multitask like that.
It can get a little bit crazy. So taking a quick look at the coronavirus numbers right now. The coronavirus tracker, if you will, has confirmed that cases are at their lowest level since March. There were 2 confirmed new coronavirus deaths reported Monday in Michigan, continuing a welcome downward trend from the daily death counts that until recently routinely were in triple digits. Tyler, it's really hard. You know, the numbers that they publish in a lot of the media, they always want to publish the total number of deaths and the total number of people that have been affected by the coronavirus. But they don't always announce the really good news, and that is the daily numbers that we're looking at right now.
Yeah, the numbers we have right now are really good. The number of new cases, it has been dropping dramatically over the last several weeks. The number of deaths has been dropping dramatically over the last several weeks. We're in a really good spot, and it's all the more reason for us to continue to take those safety measures as we've been encouraging, as all of our guests have been encouraging, because continuing to lower those numbers is going to get us further out of this and back towards some semblance of normalcy while maintaining, of course, the absolute most important thing here in all this, which is our own safety.
If you missed it over the last couple of days, summer camps have been opened up here in the state of Michigan. Governor Whitmer lifted restrictions on Friday on overnight residential travel and troop camps beginning Monday earlier this week, because we're not really in the middle of camping area. And our ace reporter, Erica Jones, would rather go shopping than to a summer camp.
No, what are you talking about? I'll go to a summer camp right now. We don't have time.
But the summer camps are open, and that's great news for parents and a lot of kids who really enjoy that annual tradition.
I'm sure there are, and it's a key part of their learning. We've been talking to Dr. Hill. We talked to the Michigan Association of Superintendents earlier on in the show. We've spoken to educators so far all throughout the week on our first 2 shows. And summer camps are absolutely key to continued learning, to that socialization that you mentioned earlier on with Dr. Carver. And having those reopened is going to be critical for a lot of these families, too, as their parents go back to work, having their kids occupied during the day, or if it's an overnight camp, having them occupied day and night so that you can get back into the swing of things at your regular job.
And Tyler, if you would indulge me in a little bit of inside baseball, I think what is going on in the other offices of our Troy studios is actually relevant to our radio broadcast audience. Normally, that is not the case. But would you indulge me for a minute to tell a quick story?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I am in Troy, Michigan. Our radio studios are in West Bloomfield, Michigan. And I'm about to give Erica the tour of our Troy facility, which she's not seen yet. But what's going on beyond the walls of this office where we're broadcasting from right now is the state's only virtual conference studio. So what that means is conferences that traditionally would be held in hotels and places like TCF Center have been shut down entirely. And Tyler, virtually all of the industry is shut down. Well, today, and this isn't reported in the news media, so I'm glad to report it. You might see it in your paper in the next couple of days and on TV. But there's been a group called the Michigan Safe Meetings Coalition. they have been put together to figure out how we can hold meetings around the state of Michigan. These are corporate meetings where associations and groups get together, and it's vital to the operation of businesses and groups in the state, especially right now, as these groups do all they can to figure out how to work together during this crisis. It's groups like the Small Business Association of Michigan and Travel Michigan and the Michigan Association of School Administrators, who we were talking to earlier on the show. These guys got to keep working on this issue. And traditionally, they would all get together, maybe once a year for a big meeting and conference where they can all share stories. Well, all of that is turned off. I mean, we can't really even open up a movie theater unless you open one in Royal Oak for a day. So given that, we have set up our own virtual conference studio, and the second I get off the air, I'm going to walk in there and go check it out. We'll report on it tomorrow. But Tyler, hundreds of people all over the state of Michigan are engaging through the studios on the other side of the wall, and we have a couple of people from that conference here presenting and interacting and having breakout sessions and running a virtual conference. And the subject of this very first virtual conference in the state of Michigan is to figure out and report on a group called Michigan Safe Meetings that is figuring out the standards for doing these kind of virtual conferences. So forgive me for mentioning that. It's a little bit of inside baseball, but it's just one more thing to add to the stack of things that have been shut down that we're figuring out a new way to do virtually. And the toolkit and the apparatus that's in our building and will be set up many other places around the state of Michigan to make this happen. These are tools that can be used for a lot of other activities and gatherings. So there's an awful lot of really smart, hardworking, creative people around the state getting us through this. And I just want to take a minute to note that.
I think it's important to note that, and it shows the innovation of a lot of these organizations that are already in motion to replace these conferences and these key meetings they have every year that keep our communities running and keep our organizations throughout the state connected and working together as well. And it gives them an opportunity to do that virtually with the constraints that we're currently under while still maintaining the services that they provide. It's very interesting.
So that's what's going on the other side of the wall. As long as we have Erica here. Erica, you've had the opportunity over the last couple of days. Your reports have been outstanding, and you've had the opportunity to see how retailers and how the salons and how businesses are beginning to open up. And what I was really impressed with one of your reports yesterday was how the salons were using the kit that Oakland County put together.
Yeah, it was super cool to see that being put to use because we showed it on the Megacast how a couple weeks back when Dave Coulter, Oakland County executive, gave the initial, meeting and speech about these kits that he was providing for all the Oakland County businesses. It was more of just not an idea because it was executed, but it's cool to actually see them being used in small businesses. My dad's law firm got one, so they've been using it. So it was definitely cool to see it. And I think all small businesses should. I'm sure you can still go on and get one. So that was cool.
By the way, Tyler, Erica is not that much taller than I am. It's a perspective of the camera, and she did grab the really big, tall chair. So let me sit up here a little bit. No, well said. I appreciate that. And really, Tyler, that's what the whole show is all about. The whole show is all about, heading out in the community, talking to people, and getting a really grassroots idea of what's really going on.
I will say one thing I have been kind of disappointed with, on the contrary, not so much when I've been doing my reporting, but just being out by myself, picking up food. I have seen a fair amount of people that are not wearing masks going into places. And to me, it's just hard for me to understand, why wouldn't you just put it on real quick when you're going in to pick up your food? So that's been a little puzzling. My family and I have been noticing that. And, I just think everyone needs to remember it's so easy to just put it on for 30 seconds when you walk in to get your food. And it really, really can help.
I got my mask right here. And the minute I get off the air, I'm going to mask right back up and we'll do it. So, well said. Tyler, let's go through the COVID-19 vocabulary quickly, and we'll have an opportunity, and we're going to start in the very back, and we'll have an opportunity to take a look at some of the things that Erica has found the last couple of days that got right into the COVID vocabulary. Let's start with the COVID costume came out of Erica's report yesterday in the show.
Yes, the COVID costume is your full getup of PPE at personal services locations like nail salons and hair salons. They're going to have the face mask, maybe a shield. They may have a full plastic gown on. They may be wearing gloves. It's the whole collection.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be a big one for Halloween if the kids get out, too.
Yeah.
That'll be a double whammy. You can put the COVID costume on your kid, and you know they'll be safe. So that came out of one of Erica's reports. That came out of the report yesterday. How about the COVID curtain?
Yes, the COVID curtain is a divide being used at some select local restaurants where they put a curtain up in front, like a shower curtain, up in front of a table to tell you that this is blocked off. We're social distancing. You can't sit here.
It isn't like a shower curtain at the Coney Island that Erica went to.
Yes.
It, in fact, it was a shower curtain. That cracked me up when you showed that to us, Erica.
I know. It was so funny. I walked in and they literally had several shower curtains. I think they were more so to block off the tables to make sure that people weren't sitting in those ones. But yeah, it was funny.
And I've yet to enjoy, Tyler, a quarantini.
Yes, a quarantini is a COVID-19 themed alcoholic beverage that is themed after, of course, a martini.
And very quickly, because we're running out of time,
Yes.
the final vocabulary item today would be a COVID monster. What's
Yes.
a COVID monster?
Yes, much like the COVID curtain, a COVID monster is a small, somewhat intimidating-looking stuffed animal that's put on tables at restaurants to block off the tables and encourage social distancing.
All right, great job at the team today. For Erica Jones and Dave Scott and Troy, Tyler Keefe, I'm going to send it back to you.
Thank you very much, Dave. I am Tyler Keefe in our Lakes FM studios in West Bloomfield. Thanking you, of course, for tuning in today. To all of our guests who joined us on the show today, Chris Wigent from the Michigan Association of Superintendents and Administrators, Captain Dan Edwards from the Bloomfield Township Police Department, Dr. Cynthia Carver from Oakland University, Dr. Gerald Hill, and our entire team. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back tomorrow.